I welcome all of you on platform of YourPedia Education. And on the platform of YourPedia Education, uh, we are interacting with many of students and professors in world over universities so that we get an idea how to land up in those universities and what research area we should work on in those universities and what career we can look forward to after we graduate, after do masters and PhDs. In that direction only, today I'm going to interact with Rishabh Sardana. And Rishabh Sardana graduated from India in electronics engineering, and then he pursued his masters in energy sector, energy science, from US Boston, Northeastern University Boston. So we will learn everything about how it is, and today he's enjoying wonderful career over there. And Rishabh was one of those students who used to listen to his interest and temperament. So as you understand, when he was in graduation, he pursued a course in IGNOU, Indira Gandhi National Open University, in sustainability and energy sector. Many of you keep on asking that we are from electrical or electronics background, should we go for sustainable energy or energy domain? You can listen to Rishabh, and Rishabh has also agreed to share his email ID with you if you have any kind of questions or queries how we can proceed forward. Plus one more thing, like there is so many scholarships related to this energy domain in countries like US. There's a lot of research going on in those countries. So today I'm going to interact with this Rishabh Sardana, who graduated from Panjab University, Chandigarh, and then after that he went to US and pursued his masters from Northeastern University, Boston. It's a very, very important university in many domains. He will tell you that in the interview. And presently he's working in a company, CS Energy. So Rishabh Sardana, his interview is very, very interesting. I'm very sure not only interesting, it is very inspirational also for you who desire or dream to be in those countries. So let me share his brief biodata here with you. He graduated from Panjab University, Chandigarh, in electronics and communication, and then he did his diploma in environment and sustainable development. So as you can see, from electronics and communication, he shifted to environment and sustainable development, and now then he did his master of science in energy systems. His professional experience, like CS Energy mein he's working, and formerly LLC. I mean, he will tell about that in the interview itself, interaction itself. So presently he's working in that, and these are the domains in which he has his inputs. He's working in that. Uh, Also, if to mention some of the projects which he did, and some of the consultancies which he did, he has provided us this also, what he has worked. So you can refer to this also, what domains he worked prior to this. This is a sort of biodata of Rishabh Sardana. Academic projects, what are the various academic projects he did for the fulfillment of his master's course and different requirements. So this is what he has worked in this domain. And lastly, his skills when you write the CV. So he was generous enough to share his CV with me, and that is what I'm sharing further with you, so you can also understand that how a perfect CV should look like, what should be the various domains into that. In the interaction, he was very I'll say generous. He was generous enough to explain in detail about all my questions which I discussed with him. So listen to this. This is going to be very, very useful to you and all of you who aspires to be in higher education courses in those countries, and which direction you should proceed. So this CV also which I shared with you, you will get some idea what are the domains in which you can work, and also listening to Rishabh, that what are the opportunities. So listen, let's go and get some kind of information from Sardana.
Hi Rishabh, thanks a lot for coming on my channel and welcome you on YourPedia Education.
No, thanks very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. Rishabh, you graduated from Punjab University in 2014 and presently you are doing job in United States. So I have already introduced you to the students and all the subscriber on my channel, but still my first question always is your own introduction. So I want you to tell all the viewers about you, which part of India you are, when did you graduate, and how you landed up in United States.
Sure. So my name is Rishabh Sardana. I was born in Chandigarh, but I spent most of my childhood in Ropar, Punjab, which is like 40 kilometer north of Chandigarh. I did my bachelor's degree at UIT Panjab University. That was a bachelor's in electronics and communication engineering. And I graduated from there in 2014. So while I was doing that program, I started realizing my interest towards environmentalism and sustainability, and started looking for ways on how I can use my engineering for the betterment of the environment. And that's when energy industry kind of was a solution that came up to me, that it's the intersection of technology with ecosystem or sustainability. So I spent the next year or two researching on how I can make that connection. And I studied more on environment and sustainable development using a distance learning program through IGNOU in Chandigarh. And after that, I applied for master's in Boston at Northeastern University. I came to US in 2015 to do my master's here, and spent 2.5 years studying, analyzing the energy economy, understanding the ecosystem, and graduated from there in December 2017. And since then, I've been working with CS Energy here, mostly on solar and storage projects in the Northeast America.
Okay, so Rishabh, this is the first main trouble which normally students face when they graduate. They're not very clear about which domain of higher education they want to go. Even if they are clear that, okay, we want to go for higher education, let's say we want to go for higher education abroad. Let me tell you the kind of confusions, because I'm in contact with so many such students, being mentor and teacher myself. So I tell you the kind of confusions they have. They have the confusion number one, whether we should go for higher education or not. Confusion number two, if you want to go for higher education, sir, we should go it for in India or abroad. If you want to go for it abroad, Europe or America. And if you want to go for higher education, in which stream? You are from electronics, like students in electronics, they will think of core domains like VLSI, like microelectronics and something. And you are a case where you thought of sustainability and energy, which I must appreciate, there is a domain which you thought of. So from where this wisdom should come to students? Now you imagine yourself in final year or third year. And I would also like to ask you, at what stage of your engineering you decided very firmly that, okay, I want to go land up in US. So when students should start thinking about these things? And I have multiple questions, which in this particular one sentence I've told you. So what is your take on these things?
So the one word answer to that would be introspection.
Okay.
And the long story would be that there has to be a constantly evolving process of asking the question that, why am I doing what am I doing? Okay. Because in India we do engineering by default. That's my understanding, at least.
That's true. That's true.
And
even my understanding.
Yeah. So but the thing is, the thinking shouldn't stop once you get into the engineering program. Like, you should always be evaluating constantly that, okay, I got into this, what's next? What am I thinking? Where can I make the most difference? And I think for me, that became more evident in the second and third year. I used to travel a lot. I was one of those people who would just take my backpack on a Saturday and disappear for the weekend and come back on Sunday night, and I would do it alone. And people were like, oh, why do you go alone? You don't have friends. I'm like, well, no, I have a lot of friends, but I need to spend time with myself. So I used to think a lot. So when I used to travel alone, I would just go on long walks, just enjoy the nature and just think about things. And I think that somehow over the 6 months to 1 year of doing that, I just started feeling that connection with the environment, that, hey, it's a beautiful, like going to Sukna Lake or going outside of Chandigarh to different places. That it's beautiful, and what am I doing to make sure it stays like this? And once I graduated, I was very kind of convinced pretty much that, hey, this is what my calling is, that I'm motivated enough to ignore everything else and focus on this one solution of sustainability. So that it was a evolving 2-3 year process for me to make that call. But even when that call was made, it wasn't clear that I had to come to the US. At that time, I was like, okay, this is what I need to work on. Now let's find how can I work on this thing. And that's when I started looking at programs, all over India and all over the world, to see that, hey, who's doing this kind of thing. And I came across actually a university in India, University of Dehradun at the time, which was very University of Petroleum in Dehradun.
Petroleum, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which was kind of a pioneer in these kind of programs at the time. And then I found this program at IGNOU, which was a postgraduate diploma in environment and sustainable development. And I thought that would kind of make the, help me find my place in the puzzle. So how I see this whole journey is like in a 3-step. Like the first step is answering the why. What is the motivation behind what you're trying to do? And once you find that why, then you need to work in, finding where do you fit in that puzzle. And that's very important because, you could be really good or motivated at something, but if you're not a good orator, you won't really do good in managing or designing solutions. Or if you're not good at technology, there's no point pursuing the technical aspect of things. So once I identified that this is where I fit in this puzzle, then it was more about finding how do I get there. And that aspect for me came through information interviews. That I always thought that, if I'm super smart to think of this idea, or there are people who have done it before. So I always looked up to see that, hey, is there anyone else who is doing something like this, and how did they get there? So I just reached out to, like, I can't even remember, like, so many people saying that, hey, I'm this and this, and I liked your profile on LinkedIn, and and all those kind of things. And I'm just curious to have an information interview with you to understand that, what are you doing? How does your day look like? Can I shadow you? And those kind of things. And you'll be amazed, so many people responded. And I learned more and more about the industry, how I can fit into that. And that's when I made the call that, hey, this is what I want to study. And seems like 4 or 5 universities offer this kind of program. And that's when I applied for my master's in energy systems at Northeastern University.
Okay, and you got selected into that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rishabh, I want to ask you, like, you got selected into MS course. You decided that I want to work in energy studies, and you got selected into that. Now, I want to ask you very clearly, like, what should be the criterias for a graduate to get selected into MS course of his choice? What criteria? Academic criterias, and then even financial requirements. So I want you to tell very clearly what should be there and how he can prepare himself for that.
Okay, so the objective approach to that requirement is, have good letter of recommendations, have a good statement of purpose, a good resume, and then the fourth is the biggest one, which kind of tips the scale because everyone can attain the top 3. And the fourth, which I focus on a lot, was that during your undergrad, if it's a class of 60 people, chances are 95% of them are going to graduate with a degree. What sets you apart is what you have apart from that degree. And that is what drove I would say, my passion, my selection criteria, that I was very active in my undergrad. I was always doing things. I was, be it working with a training placement committee or any cultural committee or anything like that, because that teaches you something beyond a classroom. That teaches you soft skills, that teaches you how to talk to people, how to relate to people. And that goes a long way in all those 3, in getting a good resume, a good statement of purpose, and a good letter of recommendation. So I think that the aspect of soft skills and the co-curricular activities, which is sometimes underrated, is a big player in that selection criteria, because it helps you shape all the other parts of the application process.
So you mean to say, like, extracurricular activities, if you're very active, that strengthen your application? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Because like I would say that if you have, let's say a 9.0 GPA, and chances are that, if a program has 10 seats, 90 applications have 9.0 GPA, then what is the differentiating criteria? Oh, this person is also the captain of their, cricket team.
Okay, understood.
Like that. So they have some kind of leadership skills there.
Okay.
So, like, that's how you filter the audience.
But my question was also, like, what should be the other criteria's minimum requirement? Like you mentioned about the 9 CGPA. So is there that kind of requirement also, that you should have a good CGPA, you should have good research proposal or SOP, and also some GRE score or TOEFL score is also required. So where do you rate it? Like if somebody says, okay, I only have 6 CGPA, what do you say to him? And if somebody says, okay, I don't have a good knowledge of English, what about GRE? So that part also I'm trying to ask you.
Yeah. So it's very subjective. Yes, the GRE score matters, but a GRE score won't take you anywhere if your package is not complete. And that's why they always call it the application package, which has 5-6 parameters in there. So 2 or 3 of them have enough power to weigh the scale, but
Yes.
only one thing won't take you like forever. So a good GRE score is awesome, but a bad GRE score won't stop you from
Okay.
doing something if you have everything else that is, there in the package.
Good. So it is a package, as you said, right? And how important it is to identify the university and mail the professor or contact the professor before you apply?
I think it is very important, and that comes back to the thing of why we want to pursue this, right?
Okay.
Because it has to be relevant. Like if you are pursuing a program, you are traveling so far away from your home, so it has to be worth the buck. And like I reached out to a lot of people to understand this thing, and number one, to verify that this is the right thing for me, and number two, to prove it to them as well that hey, I am the right fit for you guys. Because it has to be, not only the university has to be a good match for the student, but the student also has to be a good match for the university. So
Okay.
it is very important to be uh, you know resourceful in that aspect, to be able to communicate what you are looking for. And at most, that will help you validate that hey, this is the right place for you to come if these are the goals you're trying to attain over the next few years.
Okay. So, Rishabh, tell me one thing. Like, when you are from electronics and communication graduation background, and then you chose energy studies. So, can you please tell us which domain you specialized? I mean, when you did your masters, what was the main thesis work or research orientation, and which domain of research you were working in?
Yeah, so my master's was it was a cross-disciplinary program, and it was a master's of science in energy systems. So I was fortunate to have a program which gave me liberty to pretty much design my course as I go. So when I came in, I spoke a lot with professors, and I was still understanding where do I fit in that puzzle. So how I distributed my courses was to find the intersection of the energy economy, that know bit about technology, bit about business, bit about policy, and bit about management, and how can I be the accelerator for the energy economy.
Okay.
So long story short, I did not have a specialization of one domain. It was more towards the integration of the energy economy, which considers a little bit of all the aspects of a technology.
Okay. So it was combination of that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you landed up in university there, how you were choosing the subjects? It was in your, I mean, you were to choose that, or it was a part of curriculum only? I mean, was there any flexibility to choose which domain you want to get into?
Yeah, so I would say approximately 30 to 40% of the classes were predetermined or
Okay.
mandatory, and more than 50 to 60% of my classes were something that I had the ability to choose based on my preference. So when I came here, like actively engaging with seniors in the program, then coming back to that informational interview, I spoke with a lot of people, getting feedback from them. Hey, what is trending? What am I a good fit for? And then I read a lot, like lots of reading, seeing where the industry is shaping, and all those together with a curriculum of what my university offers. On one hand, I picked courses for each semester that hey, it's looking like Europe has done a lot of sustainability. Let's study what they have done. So I took a policy class that shows the sustainability political models of what Europe did and
Mhm.
things like that. So
Okay.
it has to be a very evolving process, and it's not that you come here, that's not a destination. It's just the start of a journey that you have to keep on learning, and until you keep progressing.
Very true, very true. So, Rishabh, my second part, which I asked you just now, still you have to answer. That is financial part of doing masters, because that is something which is very, very important. You know, majority of the students have a question, sir, how much cost it will incur, and we will get opportunities after masters. These two questions are the most important thing for the students. So, how much cost, how much money should be in the pocket, and once you do the masters, what are the opportunities?
Sure. So so masters is expensive, and chances are chances of getting a scholarship are very low in these days, just because universities operate primarily on international students on a lot of sectors. So I would say a typical 2-year master's program could vary anywhere between 20,000 US dollars to 40,000 US dollars, based on the kind of university you're going to, and that does not consider the living expenses. So multiple ways how I see that can be avoided or reduced is just maintaining that initial contact with a professor and see that the moment you land, if you can get a research opportunity, because that's very likely. If you have a relevant experience in a job, in a master's you're applying for, you could get a research or a teaching opportunity the moment you land here. And that happened to a lot of people that were in my program. Then we also took a lot of campus jobs. I used to work in the communications department. Then I worked in the brand ambassador department for my university. That's another aspect. The third aspect for me was the co-op programs fortunately the university I chose, it had a co-op program. That basically means that I could do a cooperative learning or take pretty much like a full-time job, as long as it is relevant to the work I do or to what I'm studying at my university. So I did that for, I would say, almost 2 semesters, and that definitely helps financially a little. But also, I think it very amazingly bridges that gap between academia and industry, so that you are, hopping on and off, and that, oh, what I learned in school applies there as well, or maybe next time I should learn more about this. So that is the third aspect. And for me, another thing that worked was an education loan. But
Okay.
you need to figure that out. That is that, what the risk, that do you want to take that risk, or are you invested that money into this whole task that, hey, you're going to take a financial liability for that. And then PhD is another route that a lot of people pursue, but just because research has more potential of having some kind of a side income that kind of either incentivizes what your academic costs are, or totally neutralizes that.
Okay. So you said you should go directly for PhD, or you said after masters you join PhD. Why did you refer PhD? I'm not very clear.
So it varies. Like, different universities have different ways on how that can be done. Some universities have the option of starting your master's and then converting that master's into a PhD program after your first year or something like that. And while others could just be a straight 3 to 5 year PhD program. So it varies from university to university, but I've seen a couple of folks do in either direction. Like, they have started as a master's program, but down the line they realize that, hey, I found something amazing here, and I'm willing to spend more time to transition. I'm not aware of the admin side of things, but I know it's possible, and it typically helps to fulfill your academic goals while also maintaining some kind of a financial balance.
Great. Rishabh, you told that it may cost you somewhere around 35,000-40,000 US dollars. It may cost, and living expenses are separate. So what is the scholarship, and what is the full scholarship in masters, and what is the probability of getting a scholarship? These two things, though you said it is very less, still I want to know what is the amount, what is the scholarship, and even if the scholarship is given, how much it can reduce your expenditure.
So Vijayender, so I have examples from all the spectrum. Like, I know people who did not get any. Someone like me who got a little, which was small, a few grand from different departments in the university, and some people who came to some public university in New York, and they got full 100% scholarship.
Okay.
So it's pretty much like getting selected, at any program in India, right? If you are the best among the best, and you have all the A's and all the checks on all the application package, university has one or two grant for one or two people, then 2 out of 75 might get it, but chances are that it's very less likely to be an international student. But mostly how I see the scholarship is that you are less likely to get a scholarship for your tuition, but you are more likely to get a research opportunity that pays you enough so that you can pay for your tuition, or a research opportunity that will incentivize or subsidize your tuition. So it's not a direct transaction, given to you to study there, but a transaction because you are working for them. They are able to compensate for your education.
What about working, as you mentioned, working for teaching assistantship or research work or something within the campus? But I've heard that the students also have opportunities to work out of the campus, I mean outside.
Yes, it varies. So as I am aware an F1 student typically cannot work outside of the campus unless they have a OPT or a CPT, which is like a, a curriculum training that's part of or related to the work you do,
Okay.
or what you study at your campus. So for instance, I can't be a Uber driver
Okay.
outside of my campus because
Okay.
that's not my legal status.
Mhm.
But if my university has a program where I can work in the industry that I'm studying in, then yes, I can do an internship with that company for X amount of days. But it's important to check what are the legal clauses, because they're subject to change most of the times.
Okay, great. So, Rishabh, like there is another way. I keep on discussing with many of the students, especially those who are doing PhD in those countries. You have done your masters. There is an opportunity to directly pursue PhD. So, I want to take your opinion. If you know that somebody who graduated in India, maybe having very good academic background, and directly landed up in PhD, that way got good scholarship, because PhD scholarship is there, and that is normally students get it, and scholarship is sufficient. So that is one way that they will not spend much, and they will get directly after graduation, they get into PhD. After masters in India, which will not cost them, because as you know, unlike US, higher education still students pursue in India in government institutes like IITs, NITs and all, so they get scholarship also. So masters may, there is no money spent in India. So after masters, suppose they get into PhD abroad in US and with scholarship, so not much money is spent on that. What is your take on that?
No, that is very true. I can definitely echo that thought. I do know a few folks who did that. Some who did their undergrad, did their masters in India from a very nice school like an IIT, as you said, and then you know either straight away applied for a PhD, or they had some kind of an experience in globally recognized firms like Concor or HP and things like that. So yes, it is possible. It is very much possible to get a fully sponsored PhD. But what validates that is that the see the term free is not really free, right? You are bringing in something instead of the currency,
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
the monies there. So what
yeah,
you're bringing is your intellect. So
yeah,
if you have the proof or some kind of validation that what you are bringing here is more than what you're going to bring in cash,
okay, okay,
that's going to be scholarship.
okay,
And so you have to be very active academically or
mhm,
professionally. You have to have very well defined authored papers or some kind of research projects or someone to sign off on you that hey, this guy or this girl is very much capable. And if you can prove that to the university you're going there, it's a financial transaction for them that hey, this person is going to bring way more knowledge to us than the academic impact of that or the financial impact of that. And that's how you get the scholarship. So yes, it is possible. I know a lot of people who have done that. So, and I think that's a good route for someone who's very determined and ambitious towards their goals of making a difference in some kind of a field.
okay. Now, Rishabh, my next query, next question I would ask you is, like, there's so many students who come from India to United States, and many of them, like you, they get very good opportunities post their masters. Some of them, they may not get good opportunities, and I have even heard of that some coming back to India because they could not get good opportunities there. What is the reason why they will not get good opportunities, and what is the reason that even after spending so much of money and got education in good universities, they're coming back to India? What is the reason for that?
So and my response is very subjective. I don't have any research data to back this up, but I see that as like two primary parameters. One is the market is always a big variable. What you are studying, what field you are in, how rich is that market, and how is the economy doing. And second, which I highly think is the reason, is like why you are coming here. That are you coming here because you want to be outside of India, or are you coming here for a goal that hey, the why that we discussed earlier, that this is what I'm trying to work on. And why that is important is because it controls your motivation factor. Like I know so many people who were 99% marks in their class, but when they went to take a job, they were not given a job because the interviewer were like, hey, you seem not very motivated towards this task, and we don't really know if we can trust you to stay with us for long enough. And I think that's the, in my understanding, one of the biggest reasons. that if you are coming to pursue any kind of education outside of your hometown, you should be going there because of the education, not because you want to go outside of your hometown. And I think I can't stress that enough, that it's very, very, very important to be sure of what you want to do, and then, just go for it and be able to overcome any hurdle you come while pursuing that mission of yours.
But Rishabh, the reality is like when you graduate, majority of the students when they graduate, they're not very clear about which domain they want to get specialized and what they want to do. Maybe lesser exposure to the industries and real life problems. So there is very less students. So can you give some kind of guidance to such students who graduate with good CGPA? Like you yourself is a typical example of very good CGPA. So those of students who are getting good CGPA in graduation level, but as you know, the system of education in India, less exposure to the industries and less exposure to the lab work or something. So from where they will get an idea that which domain they should work in. See, you gave me your example. What I could understand from your personality, you are not ordinary student. You used to go around and visit around the places, natural things you used to enjoy. So you got the idea. So I want to go for sustainability and environment. So I will not take you as average example, but average student in India who is going to the colleges, meeting the curriculum and getting the good CGPA, not much exposure of industries, not much exposure of the new technologies, from where he will get an idea what he want to do and which direction he should pursue his research.
Yeah, that's a very good question. uh, I would say the biggest parameter that comes into play is to not be satisfied with what you have, like to make sure that there is a void and you are working to fulfill that void. There are multiple ways you can do that. For me, it was traveling. For some, it could be reading or listening. Apparently, that's the thing. People don't listen that much, because if you listen to people, you are learning so much. I was amazed. Like, I used to be, I'm still very talkative sometimes. But like now, when I'm in a room full of people, I always listen what they are saying, because chances are they might tell me something which I do not know. And that's another topic for me to research. So listening, reading, introspection are the biggest things. Then what is, I would say, the easiest route out of that is informational interviews. Like find a mentor. That, we are humans, are social animals. We need each other's help to get across. So think, just, put out half an hour every week and think that, okay, how was this week? Is this going good? Does this align with what I want to be in 5 years? What I want to be in 5 years? Is there someone who I want to be like in 5 years? Maybe I should reach out to them and see what they did to get there. So like these are some thoughts, that I think are not very common, but it's very easy to, just it's, we live in a digital age. You can literally contact anyone you want. Like I would say half an hour every week, think about where you are, where you want to be, find someone anywhere in the world who you think is remotely close to what you want to be. Reach out to them, say, hey, this is me. I am just curious about your profile. I want to speak with you, see what you do. And what I've seen, the beauty of that is, number one, people respond. People
Okay,
who are successful today, they are because someone helped them get there.
very
So
true.
they are always willing to pay it forward. Then second, once you speak with them, chances are you might like, it might motivate you to do something, but on the flip side, it might also be an assertion that, hey, this is something I do not want to do. So, and that's a good thing. If there are 100 things out there, one thing you don't want to do, and then you just keep looking. And so it's a constant process, that do not settle until you are certain of your motivation, that you have to have a void and keep on searching until you feel content that, hey, this is my purpose and I want to work towards that. And I think that, like, these days there are so many distractions, it's very easy to ignore that introspection process. So I would just appeal everyone to be very mindful of that and give some thought into why you are doing things.
Okay, so you should be greedy and you should have passion and you should be really very, very clear what you want to do, right? That is what you said.
I won't say greedy, just like be very ambition. Like you have to
Hmm.
have a purpose.
Yeah, that's true. So, Rishabh, you just mentioned about public institutes and private institutes. Like the situation in India. You graduated from one of the government institute, and in India, even today, government institutes in engineering domain are very good. Where like IITs, NITs, and Punjab University from where you graduated, they're very good institutes. And private universities are coming up, but still presently the situation in India is public domain with this engineering education is good. What is the situation in USA? I mean, the good universities which students should target, they should be public or private, and what is the criteria? Like in India, when you think of going for higher education, think of IITs. So what is the criteria in United States for when you think of getting higher education?
So it is very similar to how we have in India. Like chances are most of the public universities are really good. University of California at Berkeley, uh, like University of New York, Sunny universities, bunch of them. But there are at the same time a lot of private universities as well that have a very reputable brand, and they've built their not only brand but a series of academic experts over the last few decades.
Okay.
So rankings are the first thing. I would say one thing that is very common across the board is that the private universities are more expensive as compared to public universities. But at the same time, even though public universities are less expensive, they have some kind of a premium for out-of-state students. I'm just trying to think if there's a more objective way to categorize that. Uh,
I mean,
because yeah, if you look at the top 5 or 10, it's a mix. It's a mix of public and private universities. So there are some private universities that are good, but do not go for a third tier, university just because that is affordable.
okay, so we can't say like public universities may your expenditure will be less and it will be affordable for you to get higher education. We can't say that for America, USA.
Uh, it varies. You can for some of the universities, uh, but not for, because I know a lot of private universities as well, which would be cheaper than a public university,
Okay.
provided you get certain kind of grants when you apply there.
Okay.
Or sometimes in public universities, what it happens is if you are not a resident of that state, like for instance in Punjab University, if you're not from Punjab,
Mhm.
your tuition, would fee would be higher if you are, let's say, from a different state of the country.
That's true. That's true. So, Rishabh, now you are into job also, no? So we would like to know what kind of job you are doing job related to energy domain only. So, what kind of profile you have? What kind of job things you are doing now? Being electronic engineer. So that is my curiosity also, that what domain you are working in as of now.
Yep, sure. So as I said, as my program at Northeastern was very cross-disciplinary, so that's pretty much what my job is right now. So I'm working overall in the energy industry, looking at these solar and storage projects. But what I do is cross-disciplinary. I work with energy project developers, and I kind of help them optimize their projects for maximum value. And how I
Okay.
do that is looking at the state incentive programs, looking at the financial model, looking at the design of how things can be further optimized, and seeing how, like, we don't necessarily want the most efficient module. We would also need to look at the inverter, and we also need to look at the transformer, but at the same time we also need to look at the cost of them and how the state incentive program works, that being able to relate 4 or 5 different parameters to give a complete wholesome product rather than a product that works very well in one domain, and okay in the second domain. So that's what I do right now. Develop, with our clients, different solar and storage projects towards mostly in the northeast of United States. And I would say it's going very well. Our company is growing rapidly, and in general sustainability and energy industry is expanding very rapidly, not only in the US but across the globe. So
Okay. So
if there are anyone who's listening to this, and if they have any questions, or if they just want to have a discussion, as I said, information interview on how to get into this industry and where you think you can fit in that piece of puzzle, feel free to reach out.
yeah, because there are so many of my students who graduated, who did a master's in energy studies from IIT Bombay, and they are into jobs now. I'm very sure they must be having some questions to ask you. I'll connect them to you. I mean, you can give them right perspective. So, is your company also planning to expand the work in India? Because there are the places, you know, where maximum energy comes, solar energy comes. So, are you guys planning even to set up your company offices in India also, or which part of world?
So at this point, I do not believe we have any plans like that. But
Okay.
again, like, it's future is uncertain. We are relatively a new company. We have
Okay.
grown rapidly over the last few years, and we have installed more than 1 gigawatt in the US itself. So I'm very curious to see how our strategic plan spans out over the next few years. But as of now, we do not have plans to go to India.
So, Rishabh, this largely your profile looks like you must be someday you can work in the domains of policies. Are you, I mean, heading in that direction or inclined for that directions? Policies related to energy sector?
Yes, I would say that as a long term, I see myself, working in some kind of bureaucracy,
Okay.
with townships or with organizations which are looking at the vision for how the energy ecosystem is shaping over the next few decades. So yes, so
Okay.
that is something I would be targeting, when I have a few more white hair in my beard and my head.
Okay. But some people don't have till 80. So, what do you plan for that? Anyhow.
I'm trying my best to accelerate that as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Rishabh, my next question to you is why not Europe and why US? A new student wants to go for exploring the opportunities and options. So this thing comes in his mind. Sir, Europe or US? What is your advice?
Um, I would say it's very technology specific. That some technologies, like automotive industry, is very big in Europe, and chances are you are likely to have better success if you are in the European part of the world than in the North Americas. In my you know field, what I studied back in 2014 when I was applying is that US was where the research was happening, where the thinking was happening at a bigger scale, and Europe was where some kind of experimentation was happening. And the ecosystems I saw in the US and the opportunity I saw in the US was bigger, just because of the footprint that the North Americas have in terms of sustainability, or the carbon uh, footprint is big right now. So at that time, it was my guess or guesstimation to say that US has to step up into this game of reducing the footprint, and it was a prediction that it's going to happen over the next few years. And I was fortunate enough to be, and I'm still trying to be as involved as the economy is being shaped. So for instance, now in India, over the last, I would say, 4 to 5 years, the conversation about sustainability has changed a lot. Like back in the early 2010s, like there was almost zero to no conversation about sustainability, and now 2020, there's like so many talks. So I think it's a very dynamic process that you need to figure out that, hey, this is the field I'm doing. What part of the world is the epicenter for that, and then make the call of going to that part of the world.
Great, great. So, Rishabh, I have almost come to an end of our interaction, and my this question to you is, what do you plan now in future? What was there in mind? I mean, what you want to do 5 years, 10 years down the line? Yeah.
Yep. So I would say that the first part, as I mentioned, the reading and listening, and I think that I'm stopping more and more to be able to make sense out of things. That I'm operating in a lot of things, but I don't feel to be at a place where I can be like, oh, I'm ready to start implementing things. So I think that I want to spend a couple more years trying to understand how different countries' economies interact with each other in the energy side of things. Like, right now I'm studying the US economy. I'm familiar quite a lot with the Indian economy, but I'm not very well versed with the transactions that happen globally to make those things sustain and keep a bike running. So to accumulate that kind of understanding, and over the course of 5 years be at a position where I can engage stakeholders to accelerate that transition. I always like to think, at least in the industry I work, that less than 1% of the world's population, are energy professionals or sustainability professionals. But, the 100% of the world is affected by that issue. So it's our job not only to work in that sector, but also to inform the remainder of the 99% of the population on how to be more cognizant of that sector. So I think I'm going to be transitioning towards that kind of a position in the next 5 to 10 years, where I can be at the epicenter of stakeholder engagement for the energy economy.
Okay, so Rishabh, I think we have come to an end of this wonderful interaction with you, and I'm really thankful to you for your time. And believe me, the kind of inputs which you have given are really going to be very, very helpful for the students back home. And again, thanks a lot for your these gestures and inclination to share all your ideas with us.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me, and I wish all the best to everyone watching this video.
Okay, thank you, Rishabh. I'll catch you sometime again later. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice one.